My eyes are closed as I sit here on this rock. Not because I'm praying, not because I'm channeling a message or any type of nonsense. I'm just sitting outside on the ground, terra firma in nature. Just a humble man sitting on this rock, trying to figure out a way to say the things I've been trying to say. Maybe in a more humble, maybe in a more esoteric way, with images that can add depth to what I can see and comprehend and tie together inside that aren't so clear with just a simple word spoken. I guess I do want to start by saying I apologize. And I apologize for the stream of curse words, profane words, words that were not constructive. My last video, that was a bit of a rant. It stemmed from a place of frustration of not being able to help. So I'll start with that. I do apologize. Though, if you may have noticed, those words were spoken and chosen purposely. Wasn't from a place of lack of control in my mind, my body, from a place of an angry spirit, vengeful spirit or spirit of revenge, so to speak, inside. Nothing of the sort. Just the frustration of wanting to help so badly. Even those I'm closest to, such as, well, closest to, either my own parents, just things I want to get through and convey the depth of how important these things are, but have not been able to for a few years. Between 2015 and 16 or so, whenever it started to happen, my process of crashing inside and then growing, trying to figure out what that meant, what I meant, what the world around me meant. I had this thought, this idea, this flood of a conception that poured into me, where I thought if everyone out there could just slow down, like happened to me, like I'm going through, to perceive things and feel things just a bit more deeply, just for a moment, if they could just be, maybe even made for some reason to be forced out of their patterns of behavior and forced into a way to where they would have to look inward. I thought maybe something like that, maybe even the internet going out for just a couple days in a row could get enough out there at the same time to look inward and find something deep enough to key in on and grasp a hold of, and to find themselves and to find their way out of the lies and deceptions that we've lived. And I thought if that were to happen, then those that were figuring out those deceptions as it felt was happening to me, that I could start to put together and piece together, not so much in a coherent way yet, but in a more clear way, to know that I was broken, in the world I was living in was broken, and the systems I was brought up to believe in were all broken, and to realize they were all created purposely to function in that way, and are functioning as designed. Realizing that was the problem, and that it was intertwined throughout everything that was taught and everything I perceived and was taught to believe and see out there, constructed around me, and the things I had just taken part in fully. To me, it felt inside, if enough could realize and feel that just for a moment, they could let enough others know in the moment, with their presence, with their awareness, their new awareness of something is wrong and there's more to all of it, that would spread fast. Folks would simply come to know themselves, to know the world around them on their own terms, inside themselves, with deep reflection, so they could gain a deep comprehension of the inner workings of it all. So with the way everything's playing out, as designed to playing out, functioning as intended, with blind belief only, I can see that being forced out of those patterns of behavior has not worked, and for a longer extended period of time, When folks have chosen, still continuing to choose not to live their lives fully, to know what that even means, in themselves, for themselves, still waiting to be told what to do, how to do it, what's right and wrong, instead of no feeling what's right and wrong inside. Here we are. So I don't know what to say. So many of these deeper things, though, the esoteric or hidden things, the things that inner circles of different groups keep hidden from each other, because it's all nonsense. None of them know that they're all playing someone else's game. That those outside all the circles of all the different societies and groups in the squared and cubed block off consciousness of distraction and compartmentalization and conflation and confusion. Those folks are still playing those games. They're playing in those games of the circles of hell. And that's the circles of hell that they've chosen to play out, that's manifesting from inside them outward. And they're the only ones that can go into the inner pit, the inner depths of their own hell, each and every man and woman, to reconcile it, to reflect on it, to realize and recognize they are being ran by a dark energy that was in them all along, and it has consumed them. Because it seems to me the separation has already happened. The separation, the great divide, the grand deception we've been living in. We've been living in it so glaringly obvious now. That's why it's so frustrating. That's why my words came out the way they did in my last video. I see it simply as consumers of life, consumers of energy, versus stewards of life, stewards of energy. Stewards being the ones that protect and care for life and nature in this creation, the creation we find themselves in under the Creator. The one has to get there first. That's why I said it took me almost 4 decades to realize anything was wrong, to go in to recognize the lie. The lie. Because maybe there's only one lie, and maybe that lie is each of us, each and every man and woman that still continues to play out a lie based on labels and compartmentalized thought, of being told what to do based off someone else's authority, only based off of their belief in that illusory authority. That's the only lie. Then the truth inside becomes the truth of oneself and how oneself fits in to this world and this creation. The skies, the patterns in the skies, in the aerosolized spray. One can visibly see the effects of vibration, energy, frequency, vibration. Everything has been so overly complicated when it doesn't have to be. And inside it needs to be clear and coherent. But outside is a very, very visible in the sky example of vibration and its effects. Because energy, if you think of energy being all, or the macrocosm and microcosm, not the creator, what the creator created, but energy and how way it manifests here in the physical world we stand on. The electromagnetic nature, our electromagnetic nature of our own nervous system and how we function. The electricity of the electric, the magnetism is its field. They're intertwined. There's no separation. Those intertwined serpents of energy, so to speak, are one thing. That works from the micro to the macrocosm, from what creation may or may not be, I couldn't say for sure, in this physical world. The elements of air, earth, fire, and water that manifest in the ether. That's also known as the spirit, but that's where the spirit or the metaphysical manifests from. The electromagnetic nature of nature that manifests into a physical solid world and solid us, each and every one of us. But in the sky, to see those wavy patterns in the aerosolized spray, and to know that aerosolized spray is also poison. Look at the ingredients. Aluminum, barium, strontium. Don't just look for those names. Then look at the effects. Look up effects of aluminum on the body. Look up effects of aluminum on the mind. Aluminum toxicity. Look up the same for the other words, the other ingredients, the other things you find that are being sprayed or in the processed foods or in the so-called pharmaceutical things that are supposed to be medicine. Not so-called pharmaceuticals, because the pharmaceuticals are the poison. I should have said so-called medicine, where I should have put those two words. Anyway, look up their effects. Realize that electromagnetic energy being propagated from those towers is causing the effects, the vibrations of that energy. That energy, the energy itself that operates at a specific frequency. Every energy operates at a specific frequency. The vibrations you go out that you see physically are the vibrations of that energy, and it has effects. And that works from the towers all the way down to the man and woman, the power of their lungs and their voice, and the power of their thoughts, and the power of their conscience in their heart. And to direct that energy inside wisely, and to be able to maintain balance and harmony. For me, that came over time as I got toxicity out of my body, which I've spoken about, switching to a plant-based diet and making my own cannabis-infused coconut oil. I have videos on what I did. There are many different ways, many different healing plants and herbs and ways to heal the unnatural toxicity. There's many paths to get to the natural state inside. They all lead to that, just that, the natural state inside. And that's what's been hidden. That's how they domesticated whoever they might be, but domesticated / enslaved man and womankind. Our species has been domesticated like animals, taught to consume unnatural food and drink, taught to live in unnatural forms of shelter, taught to live unnaturally by subsisting off the energy of others, and depending on the handouts from those that keep you dependent on their systems of brokenness. And it's all a game that they didn't even set up. The ones that work within those systems, as I used to work within those systems, because I grew up within these systems, was taught by the same so-called education system, which led through all the other systems of indoctrination and participation with this beast system, which is now moving to a digital fashion and form, all-encompassing. For you to participate, you must be poisoned the way they want you to be poisoned. You have to have these unnatural chemicals and concoctions injected or put into you. You have to accept them in whatever form they offer while they electromagnetically irradiate you and fry you. Why? Because to them, you are not allowed to have your full cognitive abilities. Because if you do, because if you gain them, if you detoxify and return to your natural state inside, and you clear the mind of their dark beliefs that they were taught, you come to know clearly better, clearly, quickly, concisely, with clarity, and you can feel it in your heart where the conscience resides. Con, as in together, and science, as in to know. The conscience that resides in the heart can know and feel right and wrong, and the mind can clearly see those compartmentalized sorcerers for the children they are. I'm telling you. Because it happens to each as it happens to them, as they go through their growing and healing and unification process inside themselves, to tie together their own mind, body, and spirit into one coherent unity, solid in this place of physicality we've all been put in, that is very much in a metaphysical way more than can be put to words, let alone who created it all, or what created it all. Even saying terms like that, I do disservice. I do know this for me, in the search for me to differentiate what I might be and figure out what this metaphysical part of energy might mean, and if it's gone on forever, for infinity, and it's just changed forms. Well, I took myself back down the path, all the way back as best I could, and figured, what if I had to answer for all the mistakes? What if I was the darkness that spread all the darkness out into this place with whatever, for whatever? Because of the path I took, because of the sigil of Baphomet on my arm that I wore unknowingly, really knowing what any of it meant, yet I could give you seemingly deep explanation on the symbol and what it meant from that perspective or point of view of darkness and fractured brokenness inside myself. I could have told you about the inverted star pointing up, as in the Trinity denied, and the point being plunged into the earth. It's nonsense, but that's the broken perspective I was coming from, because I didn't have a unified sense, true sense of me and what I was, what energy was, what it all meant, what right and wrong was. I was still operating from those compartmentalized, fractured places of psyche. To me, those things were just a myth, but a way for me to verbalize and explain darkness. Though I wouldn't participate or anything, don't get the wrong idea, in any kind of sick ritualistic things that harmed other men and women, nothing like that. But in my mind, that path of darkness, and maybe in a way to justify my own chaotic energy inside, and darkness and trauma that I was experiencing and being a part of without fully knowing, it turns out, best way I can say it is, that is how I would express the inner darkness inside me. Because all of the poisons I ingested was injected with, taught, trained to believe, think, inverted my perception, inverted my ability to use my own energy, broke me from the start. Can start with the circumcision and the vaccines, going all the way up through my life. Each can relate in their own way. All of these things are designed and intertwined and interrelate to keep us fractured inside without being able to know or control ourselves, and to grow in a unified manner inside. I realized that because there were so many around me. I hadn't gone through that process. In them, there was nowhere for me to turn. So I muddled through, and then over time, the frustration has become, as it's gotten clearer and clearer for me, yet I still don't know, and I'm still searching, and I'm still trying. I'm at that place of knowing fully. No one else's journey is up to me. I can't force anyone to know, let alone comprehend anything. It's not up to me. It never was up to me. Only my own journey, my own knowledge and comprehension. What it turned out was I didn't even really explore those two terms deep enough until I was far too old. If anyone has sat through this long, my mouth is quite dry and it's full of these fake acrylic type unnatural things because my teeth rotted out, were destroyed, were full of mercury and these things. Maybe not specifically mercury, but derivatives thereof, combinations thereof, that cause just another thing to cause constant harm, the fumes from those things, along with the toxicity of being in the body and seeping and leaching throughout the body, just more metals and unnatural components. But now, having those out, you know, this unnatural acrylic version of fakeness that actually does help me to speak a bit more clearly, which is why I wear them. It's not out of vanity or embarrassment or any of that type of nonsense. My mouth does quit. It does get quite dry. And I didn't bring a drink, so I apologize. But speaking of these fake things, I do wonder sometimes on these deeper, like these so-called esoteric things that folk look into, like what it all means. And I hope for each's sake they dive deep inside to try and find the interconnected, just beauty and harmony of the Creator's creation within them, around them, and they'll be able to see it within others out there, and see past the surface layer judgmental perception of labels attached to whatever, because it's all much deeper. I did wonder at one time when I heard the one scripture of something it gave. These things were all things that I would think about and contemplate wherever I heard them or found them. It didn't matter where or what version or place it came from. I had to find some kind of meaning for me. But this whole idea for me, after living so long in my life, oh, my mouth is quite dry. Living so long thinking there was no creator, then realizing I really think there must be, and then feeling the knowing inside of there is. What does this all mean deeper for me? It's how I felt. It's how I feel. Help me to... Where was I going? Yeah. It was that phrase of what happened after. What happened after if I had to answer for myself? Physically dying, and I realized I had no answers inside. And later that thought of the gnashing of teeth. Being told I never knew you, no matter what voice, whatever what that came from. Of after this place, of trying to figure out what had happened, try to answer for whatever I could answer for, and be told, I never knew you. Meaning, I would fail. Yet another failure, and for me that scared me deeply, because I realized physically how much a failure I was physically in life as a son, as a parent, as a father, as a soldier, as a man. What a failure I was. and that hitting me so deeply, physically and mentally, that's what scared me spiritually. Because as I was unifying that part of myself, integrating myself into myself, mind, body, spirit into one coherent energy, that was scary. And then over time, since then, these things, my teeth, my rotten teeth that were in the temple, my temple that I had corrupted, had to be pulled out. And then it was sort of like a giggle inside. I thought I might have spoke about it on the video after these were pulled out, about maybe that's a very physical way for me to get a message of saying, well, maybe you're on the right track. Maybe you won't experience that gnashing of teeth because you have tried. Because now you have no teeth to gnash. Because you are so toxic and you toxified yourself so badly. And you poisoned yourself so badly, knowingly or unknowingly. And you did it to your children. And you waited so long to try and break the cycles, either knowingly or unknowingly. I knew I still had to pay. And I look at that as part of my payment. And maybe that's part of what can help me convey messages now from my own experience, I figured and have tried and am trying to do. Though I'm not saying I'm saved or cleansed or or any of those. I'm not trying to speak for what is coming for me or what's coming for anyone. It's not my place. It's just the things I use to interrelate in my life, in my experience, in my moment to moment, as I draw and expel breath, as my heart beats, as I have the inner balance and control to not get worked up or agitated by having those kinds of thoughts or any labels or associated pictures of others to those thoughts, because I have my own. I developed over time and with contemplation and reflection and healing of getting the toxins out over time, of gaining my own organic clarity in my heart and my mind. And that, I'll say, the energy of that, the energy of me that resonates in my spine, in tandem with my heart and mind, in an electromagnetic way, in a physical way, for as long as I'm here. Maybe I'll try and keep conveying that, the depth of that, the 33 bones of the spine. 33 being the degree in Fahrenheit where water moves from its state of frozen ice to liquid water, to get the energy of that, energy of you moving your heart and mind, to come into balance, into harmony, into unison with nature, with your own nature, to see nature, the good and bad, the light, the dark, to unify that to its depths, to your core, because if you don't explore the depths of the darkness you are capable of, and others are capable of your core, you won't know. Yes! Yeah! Coming! Well, I'll leave it there. Actually, I'll let it record on the way. I have to go see what's going on. So, anyway, 33 bones of the spine. That energy bring into a frequency, a higher state of frequency, in tune with nature, and let the physical vibrations of your energy then propagate throughout life in this creation, a way to help others do the same and align their energy. Because the spine is very much a part of the skull and bones. Not the 322, but backwards. 2, 2, 3, 2 pairs of 23 chromosomes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I'm good. I was just recording and talking. Sorry, I didn't mean to worry anyone. I was just out talking. No, I wasn't screaming. Sorry.
No, we thought we actually heard you yell, like, for help.
Oh, no, I didn't yell for help. No. No, I didn't mean to worry him.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were like getting bear 8 or something.
No, I'm good.
Alright, love you.
Alright, love you too. I guess I've been sitting out here a while. So look at the time right here. It says 32. Just got done talking about that, as it's about to roll to 33. Because folks have so many misconceptions about so many words, labels, and things and symbols that they don't get the symbology within them. But what about the skull and bones? The 7 orifices on the skull for the physical senses to perceive things. The 22 cranial bones. The 7. The 22 divided by 7, and pi, and the infinity of that number, and all those things. And in the skull, within the skull, in the ear you use to hear the vibrations of the energy out there, to perceive those vibrations, the cochlea of your ear, in that spiral pattern of phi, or that spiral pattern, that 137 or so degrees, that golden angle. The angle is us, it's just the spiral of life, and then the Masonic square and compass, the 90-degree square, and the compass set at 47 degrees to get that 137 golden angle. But it's It's like old sorcery that the sorcerers forgot long ago, and that the children have just played with and continued on with these symbols. They can't tie them together into any kind of coherency, obviously, in their heart and mind, because they're operating off a fractured mind, compartmentalized mind. Compartmentalized with fractured, broken knowledge without a clear, coherent picture of what it means, what symbols mean, what the symbol of them means, and what, oh boy, so it's controlled by external symbols. Idols idolize each other, worship each other, or whatever the mind plays out as they think they're, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about what they think or how they think. So I guess, maybe I'll go get a drink. I feel bad for creating that reaction. I didn't create the reaction. Something they heard got them worried about me. So I didn't create the reaction, though. My action of coming out here without saying, hey, I'm going out to just sit and talk or go for a walk or something, made them worry because they didn't know where I was, so they started calling. So that fear then played out in their minds, or at least my wife's a bit, because my wife does tend to think about those things, and she does tend to picture things in what kind of harm could come type of way, because she cares so deeply in her heart. And that's what took me so many years to finally recognize what that meant in me and my own ability there. And that's part of what I could go back to what I was saying earlier. Consumer versus steward of life. It's the same for men and women both. Men and women both have to unify their heart and mind. Not be controlled by misconceptions and beliefs put there by others about themselves or about the world around them, especially about others around them as well. Can't be controlled by a perception that makes you think something about someone just because you... Sorry for that. I'm not trying to say like you. Folks just have to know themselves a little clearer, maybe with a little bit more depth and clarity. It's not just the skull and bones, the physical, metaphysical nature of energy, the spine. It's the flesh. It's the largest organ of your body that covers your body, that covers the vehicle you move through this experience in. Your flesh that absorbs these toxins as well that they put out in all kind of form and fashion. But the metaphysical nature of nature, the energetic nature of nature has to be felt and realized inside to be able to tear away, so-called, from the physical and tie together the metaphysical inside to get to that place to where you don't fear. You don't hit that state of fear in your mind because you don't play out those kind of eventualities anymore because you've recognized and explored the depth in yourself so far. You just lose fear of the physical, so to speak. It's how you get in this world, but not of it. To where you can very much be a part of your everyday experiences with such depth and such clarity in a symbolic way inside that doesn't have to spill out and influence anyone else in a harmful fashion. It just doesn't. That comes from finding peace inside, from tying these things together, to getting the more of you within you, to find that, to find the I within you, to not think of these, to not think in terms of these we's and they's, and to think in terms of pictures put there by others, or TV shows or movies. And that's when a thought comes to mind and a picture flashes from a TV show. That's an organic thought and imagination playing out with clarity. That is someone else's imagination playing out in your mind. That's mind control. And that's why the power of conscience, the heart, is so important, I would say, because that's when it changes. It changed for me. And that's what helped me fight addiction within myself. Because the conscience, to know together with my heart, that became a contest, or con-est together still, and test. as in a test within myself, a test between my heart and mind. Here's a good example. I had that addiction of soda and sugar and this and that, but then when I heard, of course, well, it was before I heard, because I had already known there were so many other toxins, but I found this out later down the road in my journey of searching to figure out what's going on, coming across Simonix, aborted fetal cell tissue being used as flavonoids in so many processed food and drink products. Soda was one of them. It was disgusting. And then the thought and the deep darkness inside me, or the deep dark contemplation of that going on inside me, gave me the image immediately of they've turned us all into cannibals, knowingly or unknowingly. And then for me, it became knowing that and knowing that that was a life that never got a chance to experience life due to others' poor, disgusting decisions being put in things for folk to consume, things I consumed, things I gave to my children. It made me realize just how dark all of these things were. And then it made me realize when I could convey that information to others, or when others I saw heard that information, and when they could ignore that and continue to consume those things and then say things as if they know things, well, that let me know right away that they still don't know. They don't comprehend. They say they know, but they don't comprehend the depth of the darkness of what that stuff is doing and how they're just consuming still. This is the consumption of life, and that is driving their energy within them, keeping their frequency in a place of darkness and brokenness, whether they realize it or not. And the words that come out of their mouth, those vibrations of those words, give them away. And you can hear the brokenness. You can hear someone say they know things, or we know things. We all know these things, but yet we do these things anyway. Why? Well, that shows a lack of care. That means your conscience is still damaged. And conscience is your own ability in your heart to overcome the thoughts of mind that say, I want that addictive poison because it tastes so good, even though I know it's chemicals, even though I know it's destructive, even though I know other life has died, and I'm consuming that life, the life of my own species, because I think it's so delicious. That is darkness. And that for me, inside, made me realize maybe that was part of why I could not look at the sun, because they had, in a very literal, physical, and allegorical, anagogical form and fashion, they had turned me into a fucking vampire that ravenously consumed life for so many years. And maybe that's what it was. And that's why I wanted inside. Over time, my eyes healed, as my body healed, as the systems within my body healed. Just by coming to know things and to fight those addictions with the power of my conscience, with my heart, to feel that if I know better in my mind, I better in my heart do the right thing by fighting those addictions until they die within me. And that is a process. It's a hard process, but it's a process that gets easier and easier and easier as each one breaks. As each lie and each addiction breaks, as you overcome it, the next one's even easier and even easier. And clarity is gained fast. So that's the journey each has inside to go through. And it's not overnight. So one can change their mind overnight and decide to do what's right overnight, right now, in the day, in the moment. And that's why, for me, I still have faith. I have hope. I still try. I speak out, even though I know the system itself would like nothing more than to get rid of me and those like me. It doesn't bother me any, because I'm past all that kind of worry, because it's about more than me. It's about y'all. It's about you folks I don't even know, and it's about the family members that I do know that I love. So my children and my grandchildren can have better lives than what they have had and what they are having and what's going on, because no one them nor the oldest man or woman out there deserve any of this. None of us deserve to be tricked from birth to taught we were this, that, or the other, only to find out later that we were slaves all along to someone else's game, being forced to play their game and pay to live in a place that they did not create either. That simple clarity inside, though, can get each and every one to be able to turn their backs on the players of this game. You don't have to fight them. You just have to turn your back on them and they'll go away, I figure. They might lash out like temper tantrum mode like they are now and really try to lock down everyone and everything and make all this whatever. All each has to do is get through to each other. All of this changes bottom up, not top down. From right here on the ground up, each and every one of us. That's how it changes. Changes aren't going to come from other men and women above you in fake-ass positions of authority and all these bullshit systems all intertwined together. I'm not trying to start a stream of curse words or anything, but so before I get away from myself, please think about it deeply. Have to recognize and see through these lies. The lie of evolution, the lie of the who, what, why, where you are, what you are. All these lies, the lie, heliocentric lie. Every ist and ism you want to think of just about the lie in it and how it's all the same. Every single lie is just another category of the same lie at its core. And all that is deceptive, disharmonious, or whatever type of energy, chaos, evil, the devil, call it whatever you want. It lives inside each. And right now it's running far too many folks' minds in a state of fear. Because they haven't gained that ability of conscience, their own conscience, to be able to take hold within them for their spirit to grow, for them to operate from that place in the heart and feel it. To feel what they mean and what each other mean, and then to help each other by letting them know whether they want to hear it or not. It can be done in more kinder, more forceful ways that don't require physical force, just the force of the words used in the moment, in the situation where it's warranted, maybe. Protests, there's protests right now too. You know what I was thinking would be one of the biggest, most profound type of protests could be is if, say there's 100,000 folks, they go descend on a location to ask someone, one of their false authority figures, to treat them differently, where the system's not going to. The system is designed to do what it's doing. They're just players, actors in a role, playing within the system. So don't ask them. What if that same 100,000 folks all kind of gathered together and go, okay, all of us here, what are our collective skills here? What can everyone do? Because there's plenty of folks that work in all kind of manner of life where food, water, shelter could be covered, I'm thinking. And that 100,000 folk go, let's go out to this so-called state land or national land or whatever land they call that the corporation says they own, and you use this land by managing the land. We move out onto the land and we manage it. That's how it should work. We're stewards of life. We should be out in creation, managing it, taking care of it, using it to grow things, using it as a place to provide us sustenance and shelter, as it seems to me was put here for. Now, I'm not the Most High, so I can't, and you know, I can't be for sure, but I'll say I'm sure about that one. So what if all those folks went out and just spread out and started building their own communities? What kind of communities? I don't know. Communities with a common unity. What's that community? I don't know. Good. Making sure everyone has food, water, shelter, just by everyone just spending their energy in that type of way, because everyone's operating at the same type of frequency of protection and care and the knowledge of it and knowing of it inside themselves. So the vibrations they put out or physical manifestations they put out as they build and, you know, do things, occupy the land, and grow fruits, vegetables, do things, whatever. I'm not trying to play out a whole whatever scenario for your mind to get lost in. I'm just saying, to me, it seems like it could be like that. And that requires no permission. That's folk taking charge of themselves in themselves, and then doing that as a collective with each other, and go, we're not going to listen to these same old systems that keep telling us to do things in these same repetitive, broken-ass ways, because we see through all the ridiculous spells, and nah, it didn't need to be like this. So, I don't know. That's not up to me. It's up to each. Though I made that decision inside myself very clearly in myself, for myself, that really doesn't matter for anyone else. So, that's what I mean. It's you folk that matter. That's how I feel. I figure I lived enough life and made enough mistakes in life, and then came back and recovered from enough that I probably didn't deserve to recover from. That's what I mean. Been feeling like I've been on borrowed time for a while, but yeah, I deeply appreciate that time so much, because it's been so much more connected and profound. I feel like I just don't deserve it. So I'm happy for every moment of it. And part of that is to try to let others know that for me. To let them know that, so they can feel and experience life more fully within them. In the fullness they should have been able to, maybe all along. If our species hadn't been enslaved, so-called, or domesticated. If we weren't taught to think of ourselves as animals and each other as animals, and to know that we're actually a step above the animal kingdom with our ability to comprehend, to perceive, and to feel. And then to empathetically relate that out to others in other life. That's what I was doing wrong for my whole life until it changed. 2015, 2016. It was... Yep, anyway. Maybe I'll answer me just this. I'll leave it here for now. Thank you for listening.